Number 10. Infinity Wars. Infinity is a word you want to get familiar with when it comes to Marvel events. It comes up a lot. So does the word war, actually. Infinity Wars is not to be confused with Infinity War, which was a 1992 event that was already reinterpreted for the MCU. Infinity Wars is an event from 2018, where Gamora ends up gathering the Infinity Stones for her own purpose, becoming a villain, and taking up the name of Requiem. She ends up defeating Thanos and Adam Warlock using the stones, and also traps all of her universe in the Soul Gem, folding it in half and merging the souls of all its beings therefore together to create the pocket dimension known as Warp World. While Gamora goes on her own quest and other multiversal heroes attempt to stop her, in Warp World, Loki bands together his own team of heroes, setting on a mission to retrieve the Warp World version of the Infinity Stones so that they might save the world and defeat Devondra, a soul-devouring villain within the Soul Gem, who would feed basically on all their souls, if, you know, they didn't do anything about it. Eating people's souls. Number 9. Avengers vs. X-Men. Oh boy, I have a lot of feelings about this event. It's kind of complex, but ultimately though, the idea of Avengers and X-Men needing to duke it out over something, despite both being heroic groups who should in theory therefore be on the same side, it's tantalizing to me, that idea. There are some things about the way this event was executed that I'm not here for, but overall I think the premise is super interesting, and like Civil War, which came before it, I think the idea of heroes getting into a conflict with each other is quite compelling, especially with two groups that are, you know, as iconic as Avengers and X-Men when it comes to Marvel. In Avengers vs. X-Men, these two teams face off because the Phoenix Force is headed for Earth, specifically Hope Summers, the mutant messiah who is now all grown up, having been raised through time by Cable. The X-Men are willing to wait and see what happens, but the Avengers do not want Hope to become the Phoenix, and are vehemently anti-Phoenix. Iron Man is unable to destroy the Phoenix, and his attempt only succeeds in splitting the entity into 5 parts, which bond with other mutants and create the Phoenix 5. A bunch of crazy stuff happens, but in the end, Hope merges with the Phoenix and finds herself overwhelmed by power. Avengers Scarlet Witch and X-Men Hope Summers come together to banish the Phoenix Force in the end, seemingly destroying it. For a while, at least. You can't really ever get rid of the Phoenix Force, it always comes back. And friends, before we move on to this next spot, if you are loving this list and you are loving the channel, please head on over to Facebook, where we also are, and give us a like and follow and do all the fun Facebook stuff. We've also lots of cool Facebooky things coming for you. In a good way, not coming for you in a bad way, just to be clear. Number 8. 10 of Swords. 10 of Swords was such a ridiculous and fun event. Oh my goodness, what a roller coaster. I loved this event. It was not quite what I expected it to be, and yet in other ways, it kinda was. X of Swords, pronounced 10 of Swords in relation to the tarot card, is a mutant event about a contest of champions that is held to settle a dispute between the mutants of Krakoa and the mutant and Amenthi of Araco. The two sides each have their own champions prophesied for them, with each needing to present the right prophesied matching blade in order to compete. So of course, going into this, you'd think it's going to be a dueling contest. It's definitely going to be a dueling contest, there's going to be lots of sword fights. But hey, it's so much more than that. They have contests of all kinds, and being that the White Witch Opal Luna Saturnine of the Starlight Citadel is in charge of it, it's just mainly a really weird and wild time that ends up in just a straight, all-out battle, which is also really epic. So yeah, what an experience. Also for that event, I read like almost everything leading up to it, so that was a fun event for me. I was really invested.
Coming in at number 7, we have She-Hulk, another Disney Plus miniseries. Bringing back Mark Ruffalo in the role of Bruce Banner and debuting Tatiana Maslany in the title role after a tremendous performance in the Canadian TV show Orphan Black, this show looks poised to introduce a second Gamma Green hero to the Avengers team. And given the fact that we haven't even gotten a standalone story with Mark Ruffalo as Hulk yet, we're hoping that this miniseries will finally give the MCU a good in-depth story about the struggle that the Hulk characters have in balancing their multiple lives. And with such talented actors leading the cast, that looks to be exactly what we're gonna get.
Number 6. Infinity. An event that holds a special place in my heart is Infinity. When it comes to modern events, it was one of the first ones that I read. And I read it because I was reading Captain Marvel at the time and I needed to know what happened next with Carol. So I kind of just fell into it and, didn't read a lot of the context for this event, and yet surprisingly came out the other side with a lot of love and appreciation for this event, despite not being deeply invested in all of those other titles. Infinity is where we see the Avengers and really all of Earth as well as the universe face certain doom. Dun dun dun, as per usual with most cosmic events, when they face off with the universe's oldest race, the Builders. The Builders are looking to basically wipe the universe clean, traveling around the cosmos and destroying various worlds. This isn't so much because they are intrinsically evil or anything, but because they claim they created the worlds and civilizations, and now it is their responsibility in a sense to destroy them and finish that cycle. Meanwhile, on Earth, our heroes believe that Thanos is attempting to once again unite the Infinity Gems, but it's revealed that he's really trying to locate his mysterious son, who we later know to be Thane, so that he can destroy Thane, which is also a big part of this event. Infinity leads into Time Runs Out, which leads into Secret Wars, and so it's also an intricate part of that bigger story. Number 5. The Alliance. The Kree and Skrulls have come together. I know, say what? Aren't they supposed to be sworn enemies? Yes they are. The Skrull and Kree have feuded on and off since what feels like forever, but this time they unite to take on a common enemy, the Celestial Messiah, also known as Sequoia or Koya, and his allies, the Kotati. Empire Fantastic Four issue 0 also served to remind us that the Kree/Skrull war had also obviously previously ended, and now as such Skrull and Kree have come to Earth and Earth's moon, where this feud started years ago, in order to defeat their enemies. Earth somehow seems to always be the center of honestly almost every cosmic war or disaster. 'Cause comics. Number 4. House of M. House of M is another great event, one that dramatically changed the world, which is actually kind of rare for events, although a lot of them, claim to change the entire world or the narrative of comics for years to come. Most events don't actually live up to that claim very much. House of M did though. In this story, Wanda Maximoff, aka the Scarlet Witch, suffers a mental break after her children are taken from her, and she learns of how that was basically all covered up. Yeah, not a great look. Feeling isolated and alone, Scarlet Witch creates an alternate world where she attempts to make many prominent friends, allies, and heroes happy by giving them what she believes they want. However, when it is revealed that this world is not real but was created by Wanda, the heroes choose to rebel against her. Disappointed by everyone's reaction and frustrated beyond belief that people still see her as a danger and a monster despite her intent here, Scarlet Witch utters 3 devastating words: no more mutants. Yeah, that's what you get, Magneto. That's what you get. Being so awful. And she's like, I tried to give you everything and you're still not happy with me. Jeez.
Coming in at number 3, we have Moon Knight. For years, Oscar Isaac was one of the biggest fan picks to play the role of Mark Spector if there was ever a Moon Knight MCU project, and next year, that's finally becoming a reality. While we've only gotten to see a brief teaser trailer so far, this Disney Plus series looks to be bringing the dark and mystical drama that people love about Moon Knight in the first place, alongside a killer performance by Oscar Isaac as the multiple personality possessing superhero. This looks like it could be a great introductory performance for a character that we can't wait to see bouncing off of other sarcastic characters in the MCU. Plus, Oscar Isaac being pretty hot really helps.
Number 2. Hellfire Gala. I mean, you know how much I love some fancy nerd fashion, and I also just love the elegance and drama that is this very mutant-based event. Now granted, to have the Hellfire Gala, we're going to, need mutants in the MCU, but we know at some point that is coming to us. The question is just, when? When is that coming? Hopefully soon. Hellfire Gala is a new seemingly yearly event which varies in scale. Last year it spanned all mutant books pretty much, and saw the mutants open up the island of Krakoa to welcome dignitaries, celebrities, heroes, and villains from the world and galaxy all over to visit and, well, basically just kind of show off. The Hellfire Gala is hosted mainly by Emma Frost, one of the heads of the Hellfire Trading Company. This year it will be opened up even more, with non-mutant superhumans also getting in on the red carpet / fashion aspect of the event, attending in outfits that highlight their iconic look, but that also slay at the same time. Very important. Number 1. DC vs. Marvel. I think I can confidently say that this is an event we'd all love to see take flight. I know this because every time we talk about Amalgam comics or Amalgam characters, there is just so much love, support, and celebration amongst you, our Nerd Squad community, in the comments. That's right, I keep an eye on the comments every now and then. I'm there, I'm just watching. And I love Amalgam too. I love how fun it is. I love the idea of these two similar but seemingly opposing worlds coming together to duke it out, only to realize that they actually maybe they need to actually band together. Maybe they're both cool. Maybe they can just shake hands at the end. The premise for the event was that two cosmic entities that represented each respective universe decided to challenge each other to find out which universe was better. They would create challenges for each world's champions to test both sides, and whichever one came out on top would get to remain, while the other world would be eliminated, ceasing to exist thereafter. Number 10. Masked Raider. You may have noticed a mysterious figure pop up in this event near the beginning, the Masked Raider. We don't know yet if this is the same Masked Raider that we were first introduced to though. Probably not, unless he was resurrected, as the original Masked Raider was Jim Gardley, a cattle rancher equipped with the Eternity Mask who first appeared in Marvel Comics issue 1 in 1939, and he has since died. He got shot a bunch. The Eternity Mask grants whoever wields it enough power to allow them to equal those they come up against. The Masked Raider appeared right at the beginning of the ramp up of this event, tied into a murder mystery needing to be solved, which sets up some of the exposition for Empire in incoming issue number 1. It has also been teased that we'll be getting a new Masked Raider title in 2020. The true identity of this Masked Raider remains unknown thus far, but what we do know is a man named Jerome Hamilton, possibly a reference to vigilante Blind Justice, most likely this is Blind Justice who we're talking about, was the one responsible for giving this version of the character the Eternity Mask. Unless there's another Jerome Hamilton just wandering around, which there could be. Who knows? Could be a common name on Earth. Number 9. Null. Empire really is an event that was ambitious. Due to the global pandemic, some of the tie-ins have had to be cancelled, but originally this event was going to be one of the biggest yet, and even with the cancellations, it's still huge. Almost everyone is involved in this event, including the weird god of the symbiotes from space, Null. It seems that Null is declaring a space war of his own. Having been awakened following the events of Absolute Carnage, he is rampaging across the galaxy currently with an army of symbiotic dragons that used to be one entity known as the sentient symbiotic planet known as Clintar. However, he himself is also likely to have some kind of interaction with at least one member of the Kree at some point, as he is being hunted by Wraith, an Exolon-infected Kree assassin named Zach Dell. Number 8. Conflict with Atlantis. Another thing that you might want to understand if you haven't been as involved or up to speed with the Avengers lately and what's been going on with Namor and Atlantis is that right now the people of the sea and the people of the land aren't really getting along so well. The feud is one that started and has kind of continued and been on and off since 2018, when Namor blamed the surface for the death of young Atlanteans who had run away and suffocated on the surface world, with no humans offering to help them. How rude. They died, those poor young Atlanteans. And Namor decided he'd had it. He declared war. And since then, things have been rocky between the Avengers and Atlantis. And just between Atlantis and the surface world even. The Earth being as divided as it is right now could prove for some challenging times ahead when all the galactic threats that we're expecting finally arrive. Because you kind of want to be unified for that stuff. Number 7. King in Black. King in Black was an epic event years in the making. Leading up to it, we also had another exhilarating event, Absolute Carnage. The premise for King in Black was that Null had finally awoken and was on his way to Earth. King in Black was about the short but building tension as the heroes of Earth awaited Null's arrival, and then what finally happened when he did arrive to Earth. Mainly, I think many of us want to see this event because we want to see Null, god of symbiotes, and all his symbiote dragons, which are also super cool and powerful. Number 6. Killer Trees. What if I just left it there and I was like, that's all you need to know, there's killer trees? No, I'll explain it to you, sorry about that. You may have noticed some trees sprouting up inside people and killing them. What are these trees? Where did they come from? We later find out that these trees are part of the reason that Skrull and Kree are joining together to attack Earth, as these killer trees are actually connected to the Kotati. The Kotati are a sentient and secretive tree people. They are from Hala and actually evolved alongside the Kree. While Kree are aggressive and focused on domination, Kotati are normally a peaceful people. Years ago, the Skrull arrived on Hala and offered a technology exchange. Or really, a gift of technology, as the Skrull have pretty much always been pretty technologically advanced. To see which race was more worthy of their technology, they had a competition. 17 members from each race were placed on the blue area of the moon, and forced into a competition to see who could advance more quickly. This would end up leading to a feud between the Kree and Kotati, and later the Skrull and the Kotati, which would end up causing the Kotati to become somewhat aggressive, believing that they had suffered many injustices at the hands of both of these races. Which, to be fair, it kinda sounds like they have. In Empire Avengers issue number 0, we discover that the Kotati are plotting to seek revenge on the Kree and Skrull empires, but also potentially seek to exterminate all animal life as well, including all life on Earth. What?
Coming in at number 5, we have Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. While talking about this film will always have a tinge of sadness to it following the tragic passing away of Black Panther star Chadwick Boseman in 2020, this sequel to one of Marvel's biggest hits has promised to honor Boseman's legacy as T'Challa without recasting him or replacing him with special effects. With much of the cast of the first movie returning and the focus placed on the other heroes of Wakanda such as Okoye and Shuri, we can rest assured that this movie will have just as much love and care put into it as the first film, perhaps even more so out of respect to T'Challa's legacy.
Number 4, hammers. Okay, so this might not be as needed to know as some of the other points here, but it's really cool, and it's the cool stuff that helps get people interested in events, so I thought it was important that I share it with you. Hammers are becoming a thing again in Empire issue 1, and while yes, we've seen other heroes wield them like Thor and Ronan, and then there was the Fear Itself event where lots of people were wielding hammers, good and bad. This time around, we get one new really cool one. This hammer is gifted to She-Hulk by the Kotati and allows She-Hulk to literally channel her rage through her hammer so that she can be herself and focus once more. So once again, we get the brilliance that is Jennifer Walters combined with the strength and power that is Hulk. Yes! Number 3, Secret Wars. 2015 Secret Wars is another event we need to have in the MCU, especially with the implications we have in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. I don't even know how you write events like this into the comics anymore, because any hints you drop as a screenwriter have to be like massive implications, at least that's how fans are going to interpret it as to what's going to come next. So you must need someone like Feige either tweaking after the fact when it comes to scripts, or you must be going into it with the idea communicated to you before, like what's going to be happening and coming up, so you have to like somehow write that into your script. I don't know. We learn in Multiverse of Madness that incursions are something that could be headed our way and are a huge threat. When it comes to Secret Wars, that's what this event basically spins out of. And time runs out, the incursions ended up happening despite everyone's attempts to stop them. However, Doctor Doom stepped up to the plate, utilizing the powers of Molecule Man and his own confidence and ego to save the world by creating his own battle world, a patchwork version of all the realities in the multiverse that combined together. In the end, Reed Richards would take the power of Molecule Man from Doctor Doom to undo his handiwork and return the multiverse to relative normalcy instead. But it was quite a wild ride. That whole event is pretty bonkers. I'm here for it if we get it. Number 2, the Celestial Messiah. So who is the Celestial Messiah anyway? Sequoia has only made a few brief appearances, so most of us likely didn't recognize him when he was mentioned in Empire Avengers issue number 0. But despite the fact that he has only appeared just over a dozen times in the comics since his introduction and later full appearance in the 80s, first in Silver Surfer and later in Fantastic Four, Koya is prophesied to be the bearer of great change in the universe. A Kotati prophecy predicted the coming of a celestial messiah who will grow to have great power and sway over the universe, and be born of a perfect male member of the Kotati and their perfect mate. In this case, it is revealed that the perfect female mate turns out to be Mantis of Guardians of the Galaxy, who agreed to take part in the prophecy and become the bearer of the celestial messiah, taking up her role in the prophecy as the celestial Madonna. Since being born, Sequoia grew and developed various superpowers, even managing managing to connect and tap into the power cosmic as he grew older. Number 1. Division of Heroes? While the Kree and Skrull are uniting and coming together, they need someone to lead this hybrid army. For the role of ruler and leader of their assault, they ended up choosing Avenger member Hulkling, aka Teddy Altman, who happens to be the son of a Kree warrior, the famous and original Captain Marvel, and the Skrull Princess Anel. What does this mean? It is possible that Teddy also being on Earth and being raised there could lead to either more division amongst Earth's heroes, or even more division internally within the Skrull and Kree alliance. Of course, this could also seek to unite all three factions together, but then again, the Avengers seem to be pretty close with the Katati right now. Only time will tell how having Hulkling assume the role of ruler and taking back his Skrull name of Prince Dorek VIII will affect what happens in the story and crossover event as it unfolds.
Coming in at number 10, we're starting off with Morbius, a movie that's technically a Sony production and not from Marvel Studios, but still appears to be somewhat MCU related regardless. Portrayed by Jared Leto, Morbius is set to tell the story of Dr. Michael Morbius, a scientist suffering from a rare blood disease who finds himself afflicted with a form of vampirism after he attempts to cure himself and becoming a violent anti-hero in the process. Although we only have a couple of trailers to go by at the moment, it seems like this movie will have some connections to the Spider-Man side of the MCU, with Michael Keaton's Vulture showing up and even some Spider-Man graffiti that seems to imply that this movie might just wind up being important for the Marvel multiverse that Peter Parker seems set to blow wide open in No Way Home. Speaking of a Spider-Man themed multiverse, coming in at number 9, we have Into the Spider-Verse 2. With the original Into the Spider-Verse being one of the best superhero movies ever made, in my humble opinion, we absolutely can't wait to see what happens next in this long-awaited sequel. With how many corners of Spider-Man's weird history that the original drew from, and with how interested Sony seems to be in connecting their various Spider-Man films, it seems like a solid prediction that there will at least be some cameos related to either Tom Holland or other MCU-related actors or characters, and I just can't wait to see what surprises are in store from the characters that taught us how anyone can really be Spider-Man. Coming in at number 8, we have our first proper MCU entry with the Disney Plus show Secret Invasion. Based on the comic book event of the same name, in which a large amount of Skrulls had infiltrated Earth's mightiest heroes and various government agencies, this miniseries will focus on Nick Fury and the Skrull Talos as they seek to uncover a Skrull conspiracy. Finally getting to see Nick Fury in a starring role after years of just being a supporting character in the MCU is definitely exciting, but the biggest appeal of this series for me is getting to see the political thriller elements of the MCU on display again, but this time with shape-shifting aliens involved as well. Don't you just love comic book weirdness?
Number 7. Mephisto. Mephisto has also been considered a huge threat during this time. We don't know what exactly he's been planning, but we do know that Moon Knight and Khonshu consider him to be a big threat. And Ghost Rider Johnny Blaze was also in pursuit of him near the beginning of the Empire event, but instead of wanting him gone, he just wanted some answers from him. For those who haven't been keeping up with Ghost Rider, something else you need to know going into Empire is that Johnny Blaze has currently taken over as the King of Hell, and is sporting some pretty sweet horns currently as a result. Later it's revealed that Moon Knight, who has been taking weapons, items, and powers from his fellow heroes, has been doing so in an effort to go after a great threat, later revealed to be at least in part Mephisto, because Khonshu has urged him to do so. In fact, it's implied Khonshu seems to want to take Mephisto's place potentially in some way. What we still don't know is what Mephisto or Khonshu have been plotting, and if there are still more threats that Moon Knight plans on neutralizing.
Coming in at number 6, we have Ms. Marvel. Kamala Khan has become a fan-favorite Avengers character over the last few years as a fangirl of the Earth's mightiest heroes that winds up gaining her own size-changing powers and becomes a homegrown superhero of her own. After thoroughly enjoying Ms. Marvel's role as a lead in the Avengers video game that released last year, I can't wait to see this character explored more in depth on screen and building up to the 2023 MCU film The Marvels, in which Kamala Khan will finally get to team up with her idol and inspiration, Carol Danvers.
Number 5. Time Runs Out. Time Runs Out is an event that bridged the gap between Infinity and Secret Wars. The Illuminati already know that the incursions are on their way, and this event sees them and different heroes attempt to tackle this issue head on. Everyone has their own approach. Some heroes plan to destroy any other universes on a collision course with theirs, others look for a way to prevent the incursions happening altogether, not wanting to, destroy other universes, and even still, some are forced to prepare for what seems to be, basically at this point, inevitable. In the midst of all this, Captain America and Iron Man are also on opposite sides once again, with Cap and the Avengers fighting against Iron Man and the Illuminati. And as if the Illuminati wasn't radical enough in their attempts to deal with the incursions, Namor also splinters off from the group to create his own, even more extreme group known as the Cabal, who are willing to do whatever it takes to stop the incursions.
Coming in at number 4, we have the Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special. Now, the third Guardians of the Galaxy movie has had a long road to being made, with James Gunn being briefly let go from the project and getting to make the Suicide Squad before eventually being rehired. But before we get to a proper full-length reunion for the Guardians in 2023 with Volume 3, 2022 will be bringing us the Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special, apparently inspired by the infamous Star Wars special of old and being filmed on the same sets as Volume 3. If there's anybody that can teach us the true meaning of Christmas in 2022, it's gotta be Rocket Raccoon, right?
Number 3. Avengers vs. Fantastic Four. Well, not so much versus, I guess. These two aren't really fighting one another directly, but we do learn in Empire number 1 that both of these different teams have different approaches when it comes to what they consider the best move is here for how to handle all the chaos that is coming at them in this Empire event. Fantastic Four take a more diplomatic approach, trying to negotiate initially, while Avengers are gearing up to smash things with some of those sweet hammers we just talked about. Smash.
Coming in at number 2, we have Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. When it comes to movies that have already been built up in the MCU, the Doctor Strange sequel just might have the most hype going for it. We'll have the return of Wanda Maximoff after the stunning events of WandaVision, and the continuation of Strange's adventures in the multiverse following his contribution to the events of Spider-Man: No Way Home. Add the fact that this film is being directed by the one and only Sam Raimi, the mastermind behind the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man films, and this movie seems destined to deliver some of his wild horror as we continue to explore the Marvel multiverse. And finally, coming in at number 1, we have Thor: Love and Thunder, the 4th Thor movie overall, and the incredibly anticipated sequel to Thor: Ragnarok. Featuring the return of that film's iconic director, Taika Waititi, and also featuring Natalie Portman getting to return as Jane Foster's incarnation of Thor, and this movie seems poised to even outdo its much-beloved predecessor. Add the incredibly talented Christian Bale as Gore the God Butcher, on top of cameo appearances by all of the Guardians of the Galaxy following Thor's adventures with them post-Endgame, and Thor: Love and Thunder is my most anticipated MCU film of 2022.